Chapter 11. Urik's Secret. Urik waited impatiently for the trucks filled with armed Germans to pass. Only a couple of years older than he. The soldiers waved to him, but he only glared back. He and Jacob spent many nights talking about how much they hated the Nazis and what they would do if they caught one. Suddenly a man grabbed Urik by the collar, clammed a hand over his mouth, and threw him onto a doorway. As Urik kicked and clawed to get free, a deafening explosion knocked both of them over. Blinking his eyes against the blinding light to see what happened, Urik flinched at flames erupting from the street, while cars and trucks bounced like toys. Bloody, screaming soldiers flew in all directions. The few who tried to walk were shot down by gunfire from surrounding buildings. Within minutes, everything was still. Only smoke, flame, and bodies remained. Trembling, Urik found himself free. The man who tackled him stood quietly at his side. Urik liked the look of his attacker. His bushy eyebrows and drooping mustache made him look both fierce and brave. Tell everyone you meet Poland still lives. Even though the man wasn't in uniform, Urik wanted to salute him, but he had already vanished between the buildings, just as mysteriously as he had appeared moments before. Urik broke into a run to catch him. "Listen," he huffed. "I want to help." The man turned and examined Urik. All at once, Urik felt too small, too weak. After a moment, the man said, "All right, meet me here at midnight." "Tonight?" Urik asked nervously. "What about the curfew?" The man chuckled. "If you're worried about the curfew, then forget it, boy," he said, and turned on his heel to leave. "No," Urik called. "I'm not a boy. I'm almost 15. He had just celebrated his 13th birthday in January. "I'll be here, don't worry, at midnight." The man laughed icily and said, "We'll see." Then he disappeared in the winter darkness of the late afternoon. Urik twitched and shifted in bed, glancing at his watch every 10 minutes. It was only 9 p.m. How would he stay awake until midnight? Jacob turned and looked at him. "You can't sleep too?" Urik snorted, irritably, not wanting to explain anything, and tried to remain still. He wore his clothes to bed, which wasn't unusual when the weather was as cold as it was that night. He peered at his watch again. It was 5 minutes to 12. He must have fallen asleep. He picked up his shoes and was about to slip out through the kitchen when Jacob asked sleepily, "Where are you going?" Since Shalom had died, Urik rarely went out at night, whether it was to keep Jacob company or because the streets were more dangerous. Jacob didn't know, but he was grateful. Even though Shalom had been with them for only a few months, his death made Jacob feel more alone than ever. "Have a drink and smoke for me," he said forlornly. Urik stopped. No, Genyek, this isn't fun and games. I'm going to work with the resistance, the partisans," he whispered proudly. Jacob's eyes widened. "Oh, Urik, I wish I could go with you." Urik playfully punched his shoulder. "I'll kill a German for you, kid," he said. "I'll be back before morning, and don't tell anyone," he warned. Jacob didn't sleep the rest of the night, anxiously waiting for Urik. By the time Mela called the family to their meager breakfast of weak tea and stale bread, he still had not returned. "Where's Urik?" Alex asked immediately. Everyone turned to Jacob. He was about to say he hadn't known Urik was gone until he woke up, but Alex's face told him the lie would never work. "He had something important to do last night," he stammered. "What time did he leave?" Alex demanded, slamming his hand on the kitchen table. "What time did he leave? It must have been after curfew. The Germans shoot anyone on sight." Mela shivered and drew her sweater around her. Marischka narrowed her eyes. "I bet he went out drinking again." Jacob looked at Alex, who shook with fury and terror, while he prayed for Urik to walk in and save him. Divine inspiration, with Marischka's help, came to his aid. Pulling a shamefaced expression, he said, "Well, I didn't want to tell you, but yeah, he sneaked out for a smoke and vodka with Jan last night." Color returned to Alex's face. Jan lived in the same street, in the same building. That meant Urik had never been on the street. Afraid to look Alex in the face, Jacob prayed Alex and Mela believed him. Then he heard the door open and close. Mela called anxiously, "Yurik?" Yurik walked slowly into the kitchen. His parents' faces were more frightening than anything he'd ever encountered during that night. What did they know? He looked at Jacob, who flashed him a lightning quick wink. "I'm sorry, Yurik," Jacob blurted. "I had to tell them you went drinking last night." Alex shouted, "You're a bum like your uncle, Vladik. How dare you go out drinking at your age? Some example you make for Genyak and Marishka." Fighting back, a relieved like Yura looked down. "I'm sorry, Papa," he mumbled. "I promise I won't do it again." Mela looked at Alex, their eyes coming to silent agreement. Putting her arm across the boy's shoulder, she said, "Breakfast is on the table."